This is a 1979 Suzuki Jr50, I believe. This was a prize from a raffle that a lady got, and she didn't want her grandkids riding this, so she gave it to a friend of mine, and he's going to have his kids riding it. But it's been sitting for quite some time. It's a little crusty and dirty, and we don't even know if it runs. So we're going to check for spark, compression, check for any obstructions in the exhaust, change the tires, because these tires are absolutely smoked, and they don't look like it, but yeah, trust me. So they need to have new liners put on the rims. We've got new tires sitting over here. Overall, it's in great shape. So let me give you the spin around here. You can kind of see on the rotisserie, if it doesn't fall on top of me, it'll be a baby killer. Let's get stuck into this and let's do a compression test, see what the plug looks like, all the basics, and see where we're at. All right, guys, let's get this plug pulled out. Maybe. Or not. Okay. Well, the boot's apparently stuck, so let's see if we can coax it off there. There we go. All right. The boot is also in the way. It just wants to fall right back onto the spark plug here, so that's kind of annoying. Okay, well, here we have it. Kind of smells like old gas, but yeah, pretty carboned up. A lot of crud on there. I don't even know. This is an ND plug, W14FR FP. So, yeah, interesting. Who knows if that's the right plug for this or not. Need to look that up. But let's get our compression tester thrown on there and see if it's even going to be possible to get this running. Alright guys, we've got the compression tester threaded in after much struggling. It's not easy to get that in between that front tire and the head. But let's just kick this over and see what we got. Not the best. I don't know, we're around about 80. Probably got some stuck rings. Okay, now that we've done that, let's see if we've got spark. I'm not real impressed with the compression there. That's a problem. So, yeah, I don't know. You guys watch for spark. Yeah, we got good spark. There's one thing going in our favor. So, I'd call that a win. All right, well, let's put our plug back in and let's check a few things out here. It's like our petcock is totally frozen up. So, I don't know about that. And then let's check inside of our gas tank here. Okay, I don't know if you guys can see inside there or not. Try and get you an angle on that there, but tank is very clean inside. It doesn't look like they left any fuel in it at all. But this petcock's going to be an issue. That thing's stuck. So let's see if we can get that undone. Well guys, if we have a problem getting this going, it's probably going to be the compression. So You know, let's try something. I've got some starting fluid here. Let's just see if maybe we spray some in here, if we can get it to pop. Okay, I put a little bit of starting fluid in there just to see if we can get it to pop. And this bike, you've got to put this in neutral. It only has one gear. I've read online you can actually modify this transmission by grinding something off to make it have 2 speeds. But it's in neutral right now. This is like a semi-automatic transmission. All right, we have sparks. Let's give it a kick. See what we get. Nothing. Oh, maybe. I think it tried. Yeah, it's trying. Can you hear it? It's trying. Yeah, we got a couple pops. She'll run. Okay. Well, that surprises me with that compression. You know, maybe that compression just wasn't reading accurately. Maybe I had the compression tester unscrewed a little bit or something, but oh, and then look at that. That's weird. I didn't even touch that. I don't want to break this off, so I'm gonna get some spray and put it on there. And then I just noticed something. I don't know if you guys can see in there or not. Look what I just found. It looks like we've got some sort of rodent nest in there. So we're going to take that off too in a second. Okay, let's give this a little spritz here. I don't know how long this bike sat, but it was quite a while. Oh, that helped. So was that on or off? I think it was already turned on. It's hard to see. Let me get a light on here. Okay, it was already turned on. I have the same problem. Okay, well, so far so good. That really surprises me that I got so lucky on that. All right, so I would like to take this exhaust off here and get this cleaned out. And hopefully we don't have any little furry friends living in there. Okay, I took the screws out off camera. Let's see if we can get this baffle out. And the big reveal. That's inside the silencer. Look at that. I have to try and get this out of here. There we go. Oh yeah, she packed full. Look at that. Both ends. Let's get a wire and run through there. And we'll just see if we can get that out of there. Okay. Let's see what we can do here. Let's bend this into a little hook here and maybe we can just get in there and drag that crap out of there. Try to get this as small as we can while still having a hook on there. Okay, well, yeah, we're getting there. It's really packed. Really packed. Some grass. I'm surprised that was able to pop off with this thing so blocked up. found any critters in there yet, so that's always a bonus. I have to get the air hose and blow this out. Look at that. Well, that's got it. I don't know if you guys can see through there or not. So let's throw this back in. Sans rat nest, and you can see this tube is clear as well, which is a good thing. Just goes together like that, and then just slide her all back together. I'm curious to make sure that we don't have any in the exhaust any further here. Okay. All right, well, that looks pretty good inside. Let's get this baffle put back in, and then maybe we can bottle feed it some real gas and see if it'll fire. So let me get this thrown back in off camera, because I actually need to lay the bike down, and I get this tip put back on too. And then we'll put a little bit of gas in the tank and watch the carburetor overflow. All right, we're going handheld. Let's see if this thing will start. I just spilled gas all over the floor. So let's try it. Oh, well, fantastic. Okay guys, well I kicked it over a bunch of times and it does not want to fire off the gas in the carburetor. My little bottle setup spilled everywhere and dumped gas, and I checked the bowl, I pulled out this bottom jet and it was full. So I'm thinking that we probably have, plugged up main and pilot jet. So let's just take the carburetor off. We were going to anyway. I was just hoping maybe we could get lucky, at least get it running and then go back and clean the carb, but no big deal. We're going to take this off anyway, so let's see if we can get this to wiggle loose. Not exactly sure how this is on here. I think it's just pinched on the intake here. Not sure what it looks like. Not much room to work. And this bike with a flat tire keeps wanting to tip over on me. Let's see. I'm going to get this loose. That's going to be awkward. I really don't want to pull the gas tank off just to do this. I think we can get it. There is a gasket in there. I don't know if you can see that, but I don't know where you'd even get a rebuild kit for this carburetor. So if we rip this gasket, we'll be making one. Let's see if that top will pop off here now. There's only one screw holding that on. Oh, maybe there is two. Okay, this other one's way back in here. Sorry I can't show you, but I'm stretching this throttle cable to its absolute limits as it is. The screws almost look brand new though. Okay, there we go. That is the tiniest little throttle slide I've ever seen. And there is some gunk on it. I can feel varnish on it. I don't know if you can see that on camera, but right there. So this is the carburetor, and the air box appears to screw on from the inside. Now, that could be a problem right there. Look at that. That's all plugged up with mud dauber. I'm not sure how this is supposed to come off, but it sounds a little crunchy, so... Oh, there it goes. Oh, yeah. Now, we're supposed to hole through the air filter, which is disintegrating. Okay, well, no matter, needs a new air cleaner anyway. There's all sorts of goo in here we're going to have to wipe out so we don't get that in the carburetor, but let's get this off of here first. Let's bring you over here so you can see what I'm doing. Okay. All right, let's leave these inside here so we don't get these lost or kicked around somewhere. And let me open up this carburetor, see what's going on in here. I can't imagine how small the pilot jet is in this thing. That's got to be absolutely tiny. And it occurs to me, I don't think I've got any carburetor cleaner, so we're going to have to go get some of that. The bottom of that looks pretty brown and nasty. Yeah, that's definitely got some goo in it. So we'll need to clean this out. So here's the pilot jet right here. It's not as small as I thought it would be, but it's still tiny. So this is our first jet, our itty bitty little pilot jet. And it's definitely clogged up. I can't see through it when I hold it up to the light. You're never going to be able to see that on camera. And then the emulsion tube and the main jet kind of came out together, so, but I can't see through it either. I'm sure you can't see on camera, but that's clogged up too. So let's just gently put some torch tip cleaners through there. Now, a lot of carburetor manuals, they tell you not to do this because of the ribs on these, but if you're not really going nuts on it, you're probably fine. That is really, really, really stuck. I don't know if you can see that. Look at that crap in there. Boy. I can't get that out of there. Let me see if I can remove this pilot jet from this emulsion tube here and see if we can get something through there. So let me do that off camera. Alright guys, as you can see, I've got some rubber over the flashlight. I just cut a little slit in part of that tube liner and put the flashlight behind it so you guys can actually see light through there in the main jet. I still haven't got the smaller one cleaned out, because it's smaller than my smallest torch tip cleaner. I mean, it's absolutely microscopic. And obviously we did get that disconnected from the emulsion tube, and the emulsion tube does not have anything in it. But we're still gonna rinse it, you know, because you can get these side holes here and here plugged up, so we don't want to do that. We want to make sure everything's clean. We want to make sure we're running every one of these passageways on here. The other thing I noticed is this has another pilot jet down inside here. So look inside here. That's the second one. I'm not sure what's up with that. That's weird. So we'll pull that out and clean it. And then this float axle is pressed in here, so we don't want to mess that up. And also the needle is captured in there. So we're just going to run these with some cleaner until they run clean and get all these passageways cleaned out and have flow through everything. Then we can put this back on and see if it'll run. Okay, we got them all soaking in the sauce. I've got all these passages run and got the entire body of the carburetor cleaned out and the idle circuit and the mixture circuit here. And I took those screws out, backed them off, cleaned all the passages. But you can see there's kind of a residue on here that doesn't want to come off. And I'm going to have to scrub that with a little brush here. I've got a plastic brush. So we'll scrub that some more. And our other little tiny pilot circuit jet. So this one goes in first. And then there's this other little tiny one that goes behind it. And this thing's so tiny I can't even see through the hole. This one I got cleared, and I doubt you're going to be able to see it, but it is clear. Held it up to the sunlight and I could see it, but that passageway on there is absolutely tiny. It's amazing they can drill that small. Alright guys, as you can see, pulling the bristle out of the brush worked. That's how tiny that hole is. So we got that cleared out, so now we can go ahead and start reassembling the carburetor and see if she'll run. Then we can change those tires. So let's get these thrown back in. Okay, she's all back together. There's still a little bit of residue on here. I've scrubbed that with a brush and it doesn't come off. But I've run all through here, cleaned everything, cleaned all the passageways, blown them all out and verified they're clear, and then cleaned the bowl. So if you look at before and after, this is much cleaner. There's no more residue in there, and I've run all the passageways through here too. Taking this out as well, clean that, made sure all the passageways are clear, and we managed not to rip the gasket too, so bonus. So I'm going to throw this together off camera because it's kind of hard to do this and film at the same time, but there's not much to it. Just put this on and then put this back on and screw it together. And I have not adjusted any float settings or anything. We put it right back to where it was, assuming that it was running like this. So whether we have to take this off again or not, I don't know. But we're going to throw this back on off camera and then we're going to try starting it. Alright guys, it's a new day. We've got the carburetor on, we've got a new fuel line run, and she does not want to run. So I did put a little bit of starting fluid in there and it popped off, acted like it wants to run. I just don't know if we've got enough vacuum to pull from the carburetor because of those rings. We've got really low compression. So I'm thinking they're stuck. I'm toying around with a couple of ideas, maybe putting some heat down in the cylinder carefully so we don't melt the piston or anything like that. But just to maybe help break those rings free, and then maybe put a little bit of oil, WD-40 or something down there to help those seal, and see if we can get it to fire off and heat cycle it. Then maybe those rings will free up and we can build a little bit better compression. In the meantime, I've noticed a new problem. Woohoo! Woohoo! Not good. So apparently the old one's broken off in here. This one looks fine. Looks brand new actually. So we're going to take this apart and I'm going to fix that real quick so I can actually open up the carburetor slide and maybe spritz a little bit of starting fluid in there, because we've got to get some heat inside this motor to free those rings up. I kicked myself blue in the face, and then I also discovered another problem, and that is that the Kickstarter was not even on all the way. It was past that little groove in there that locks it on with the bolt, and it was wanting to hit the side of the plastics here, which you would think, you know, if it's out further it wouldn't, but what it was doing was canting it inward. So I fixed that. That's all right just now. There's a lot of little things like that on this bike, and the other thing is I don't know if the oil injection is working. I think what I'll do is I'll crack that banjo bolt loose and just pull that off rather than trying to pull any lines or anything, because all this stuff is original and crusty and brittle. So I've been trying to soak this down and get it a little bit cleaned up. He doesn't want me to do too much more beyond just get it running and change the tires, so got to be careful what time I invest in this. But let's get this throttle fixed. Alright guys, that's probably better I didn't film that. That was a real pain in the butt, and yeah, required some 4-letter words, so, but check it out now. You can hear that sucker snapping back. Maybe I can show you. So anyway, you can see that's working pretty good. I did put a little bit of WD-40 in there on that slide just because it was kind of hanging up. That happens sometimes when you handle them and put them back in there. Even though they're aligned, sometimes they get kind of a little bit of gumminess on the slide in the bore, so that'll help to get rid of that. So let's see if we can get a little bit of starting fluid in there. I'll kick this over. If it fires, then we've got another problem here with this carburetor overflowing. The float is not stopping the gas flow, which, you know, kind of expected. We need to look up the factory specs on that and see what it's supposed to be set at, pull the whole carburetor off, reset it, blah blah blah. The other problem is that this fuel petcock on here is not working correctly either, and it's leaking at the gasket. So when I turn this on, it just starts pouring out around the gasket here. Alright guys, I got some help with the camera here, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open up the throttle and give her a little spritz of starting fluid. Maybe. Okay, there we go. Now, let's see what happens. You notice that Kickstarter is way up from where it was too. I'd say that's a win. One kick. Okay, let's put some real gas in it. So stand by, we'll get this bowl in the carburetor filled up. Okay, I spilled a little gas here. Let's see if this will run now though. It's idling. I don't know if that choke is on or not. Oh, the carburetor's still a little loose too. I forgot to tighten that clamp. It's running. Come on, zoom in here, cameraman. This morning I'm very shocked because it didn't act like it wanted to run at all. I did put a new plug in too, I forgot to mention that. Okay, let's tighten that carburetor. It's idling though. I'm surprised at that. Okay, so she clearly is not exactly happy, but it's running. I think that oil injector's working too. It does have oil in it, you can see. So, well, I'm going to let this run for a minute. It's starting up first kick now, which is a huge improvement. I think those rings are starting to free up. So let's let this run and I'll bring you back. As you can see some of the crud burning off here. We ran out of fuel, so I'm just going to let her cool down. Start goofing with those tires. But yeah, it's running better and better. I think after a few heat cycles she'll come into her own here. And we're running a B7ES plug, which is not the correct plug, but it is the correct reach, at least according to the plug that was in there. So we're not going to damage anything, but we need to get the right plug in this as well. That should help. Well, let's get these tires mounted. Alright guys, we've got our new rim strip put on, and I just decided to clean this wheel up. It looked horrible. If you look at this other wheel, you can see how bad that was. So this one's all cleaned up, and he didn't ask me to do that, but I feel like I'm not doing a complete job if I don't, you know. And then I didn't realize he only gave me one tube. This is our front tube, so I've inflated it. It's sprayed it with soapy water, and I'm not seeing any leak, so it's probably just been sitting for a long time. Don't see anything around there. It's got some goo on here. I don't know what that is, but hopefully it's not contaminated with hantavirus. So to the other side here, I don't see any bubbles at all. And despite what it might look like, there's only about 10 pounds of air in here. So we haven't overinflated it or anything. So onward and upward, I'm going to throw the new tire on. I'm going to deflate this, take out the valve core, and slip it in there. Well, upon closer inspection, we actually have multiple tubes. So now he'll have some spares. He's actually got tubes inside these tires. I didn't see that before, because these are all stacked up, but the front and the back tire on this bike are the same, so you know, you could use a tube for either the front or the back for the spare, so that's always nice. Hey guys, I'll give you the overview. I've been cleaning on this bike a little bit to get her looking a little bit nicer, but here's the main attraction. We've got this front tire mounted up, rim cleaned up, new tube, new cap, and a cotter key done to aircraft specifications. I also got the lid put back on the air cleaner, even though we don't have a filter. I let him know about that. He's going to get one online, so I'm not going to worry about that. So last thing we need to do is change this other tire and see if we can get this to run a little bit better. And it may just come down to him getting the right spark plug. I need to look that up again and see the exact number. I've got a B7ES in there right now. I think I mentioned it's the same reach, so it's fine, but it's not what it calls for. So that could be a part of the not wanting to rev out issue. Alright guys, I went down and got the correct plug for this bike. It is a BP4HS. So let's start this up and see if it'll run a little bit better with the correct plug in it. And then we'll get onto this back tire. Started up first kick. It's cold out in the shop too. See, she's idling fine, but listen to this rev out. So I'm wondering if that float setting is not right. It's not leaking anymore, but we're dripping here. We got to replace this gasket. And apparently our kill switch is not hooked up, so got to hook that up, which probably means taking the tank off, unfortunately, but not a huge deal. But this has got the right plug in it now, as I mentioned, and the carburetor's been all gone through, but I want to recheck these float settings now that I have the actual float setting from the book. So let's do that and see if it'll rev out more cleanly, and then let's get this back tire put on too. That's acting weird. Oh, now look, all of a sudden she's smoking a bunch more. Like a lot. Okay guys, I could hear a little sputtering, and start to put my hand around here to kind of isolate the noise. Watch this. We've got an intake leak. That's probably why it's not revving out. So let's see if we can get this up on here. It looks like it's slid back just a little bit, and that little phenolic resin spacer is not sealing. we've got a leak right here. I slid the carburetor up and clamped that down again, and it's not sealing that. So that's not a good thing. I'm not sure what to do about that. But we're going to have to take the carburetor off and get that knocked out. I noticed before too when I was messing with the idle mixture, it wasn't adjusting at all. So that would make sense if we've got an air leak right there, dumping tons of air into the carburetor. So let's get that taken care of and see if she runs a little better. We got the back tire on. That looks pretty good. She's cleaning up nice. And then I noticed that the kill switch is disconnected too, so I currently don't have a way to shut this off. But I also painted the exhaust. Just threw a little bit of paint on there. Thought that made her look a little nicer. So, and here is the gigantic menagerie mess of tools that it took to get to this stage. In here. So we're going to go ahead and let this thing run another heat cycle, burn out some of this fuel. Rings to unstick, and see what we can do about this revving up a little bit more cleanly and make it rideable. Okay, well, it's the next day, and I've come out here and I put some of this poster putty stuff around our intake. Wrapped that all the way around there and smashed it down and ran this and tried to adjust everything. And I am not able to adjust the air-fuel mixture at all. Like, running the screw in and out makes no difference. Now, I could check the float level, and I probably will, but I did go ahead and order another carburetor because it's only 15 bucks, and then we've got something to test it against, and he can keep the original as well. And with the cost, it doesn't justify sitting here messing around with this too much. Now, like I say, I'll check that float setting, but we know we've got an air leak here, and this is not serviceable here where this little resin spacer is. That's supposed to squeeze down on there, and we clearly have an air leak there. So no matter what I do with the floats, it's still not going to run right. So it would be better to get a new one on there and see how it runs after that. And then if it still doesn't run right, then maybe we need to look at how much oil is going into the pump and injector. I'm not sure if this even has a pump or if it's just gravity fed. But I really don't want to get into that if I don't have to, because we're kind of at the limit of his budget right now anyway. And that would require taking the whole case apart and everything, and it's just more than I want to get into. So let's try the carburetor first and see if that helps. And like I said, we'll take this off and set the floats, and if that doesn't work, then we've got our carburetor on the way. Alright, so I've gone ahead and set the float level according to the factory specs here. Trying to hold this on here so you can see. Set that to 25 mil. The spec is 24.5 to 25 mil, so half a mil difference. And watch how slow it is to come off idle. Classic air leak. Right there. I don't think this carburetor is ever going to work right. So now she's struggling to idle, and I did try adjusting the air mixture, and it's just not doing anything. And I have double checked all my passageways, my jets, everything's clear. All of it's been run with carb cleaner. It's just not cooperating. Yeah, just not running right. So we'll wait for that new carburetor to get here and see if that improves our situation. And in the meantime, we're just going to play the waiting game. There's not much I can do on this until then. Okay, we got the new carburetor put on, and that is a tight fit. And it is idling pretty decent, and it does rev up more, but it's still not cleared out as much as it should be. Now, I don't know if you can see on camera or not, but I don't like the amount of smoke I see coming out of the tailpipe. So I think we had a combination problem of an air leak right here and probably a transmission side crank seal. So I think our next step is going to be disassembling this and doing a leak down test and seeing what happens there. The customer doesn't really have the budget for me to do a seal replacement because that's going to get kind of involved with taking this all apart. So I'm going to see what he wants to do after that if we find a leak. And you know, possibility you could put some seal conditioner in here and let it work. And if it's just a minor leak, that might solve that problem. I think it's just been from sitting. So stick with us and we'll figure out what's next. So the other thing we need to do is pull our plug and take a look at that and see how that reads. It's probably going to be carboned up and oily, if I were to bet. And that's going to indicate that we're getting too much oil through that crank seal. There's nothing else it could be at this point. One thing we can try is disconnecting this oiler line and blocking that off, and then running the bike on premix so that we have a set mix. We know exactly what we're getting and see if it clears out that way. If it does, we know that we're getting too much oil added from the oiler in addition to the oil that's getting sucked from here. And what I mean by that is not that the oiler's giving too much, it's giving the meter to mount, but our crank seal leaking is adding more to it. So I think that's where we're going to go next, but this did rev up higher and it did run better with this carburetor on it. So that's an improvement there. And this is so freaking tight on here, I could barely get it on. And that's a big contrast to the old carburetor. I'll probably just clamp this line off or something with a radiator hose clamp and block that. And then I'm not running on the tank obviously right now, so it'd be pretty easy to add premix in right here. I did discuss that leaking petcock on the other side of the customer. He does not want me to fix that. He'd prefer to do it on his own because it's just 2 screws and he doesn't need to pay me to do it. So I can only do what he wants and you know, stay within his budget. So that's what we're gonna do. Guys, we got the stator side opened up here, so you can take a look at this seal. Everything in here looks really nice. We're gonna do a leak down test and see if we get any bubbles coming out of here. I'll spray this with soapy water and just check this. But magneto looks great too. Looks brand new. So if that's not leaking, then we don't necessarily have to mess with it, because I don't really want to mess up the timing on here and goof with that too much. But yeah, everything on here just looks fantastic. I think our issue is just that the other side is leaking, but if this side is leaking air, that'll make it hard to start as well. So we could have a combination problem. Certainly the carburetor was an issue, so that's taken care of. And then the only other issue would be compression, but in rolling this over, the compression feels pretty good. So I'm going to do a test on the compression again after we've heat cycled this I don't know how many times, and see if that made any difference, if we've gained any compression. So this is from 1979. This bike has very little mileage on it, and just goes to show you that everything that lady told him was true. And they were riding this bike around all the time, so I think the low compression factor is just from sitting in those rings being stuck. But these seals will dry up over time and shrink back, and we're certainly getting a lot of smoke out of the exhaust. Alright guys, we got the leak down tester put on here. Got around 5-6 pounds of air coming through there, and as you probably cannot see, it doesn't look like it's leaking on this side. I've spun this crank around, checked it all the way around 360 degrees, and checked in all positions of the piston and crank. I do not see any leaks on this side, so even though we have the seal, I think we'll leave that be. So I think the only air leak was on our carburetor side. Okay, I've got a better light on here, so I want to demonstrate to you guys. Got soapy water in there. And I'll just move the crank a little bit. I don't see any leaks. I can hear it coming out the exhaust. And now we're fighting against that because we're compressing it. If you look at that, if that were blowing air through there, you'd see it. I've sprayed this several times, checked it several times just to be thorough. So now we're just going to get this cleaned out and blow out the soapy water and let this dry. Guys, we did our leak down test on this side, and I'm not hearing anything come out of this. So I don't know if those crank seals are bad or not. It might just be this oiler injecting too much oil. But I think what we're going to do is do a compression test here and see if we've gained any compression, and see if doing the heat cycles on this thing helped us out at all. Like I told you, we're going to do another compression test on here, and I did. This bike is stone cold Steve Austin, and we've gained quite a bit of compression. We're up to 110 now, and could maybe just go a little bit higher, but that's not horrible, so I don't think that's why we're smoking. But at the same time, I do not hear any air leaking through to this seal and going into the transmission. We may just preemptively change it. I went ahead and ordered those anyway because I didn't want to have to sit here and wait forever. And even at that, it took a week and a half to get those seals in. I need to get this bike out of here. So we definitely don't have any leaks at the magneto stator side. We checked that with soapy water. I cannot do that on this side without taking this entire case apart. And as you can see, that's slightly involved. And taking this cover off right here, we've broken our gasket. You know, that was expected. I'll make another one. This one's pretty brittle anyway. That's not a big deal. But that being said, if we do that on this side and take this case off, you know, we're going to have the same situation. I don't know if this whole thing can come out of here and we can get at the crank seal or not. I've never done one of these bikes before. And by the time you guys see this, anybody who's done one of these before isn't going to be any help to us. So I think we're going to do a few more tests here and see if we can rule out this oiler, i.e. disconnect it and just, you know, plug this off and let the bike run on premix and see if that cleans it up and it revs out better. But we are running better with this new carburetor, as I said earlier. So we're just going to go through this until we figure out all the little kinks and problems here, get this thing running correctly. Okay, we've got our new gasket made. I just super glued this one together to keep it together because it broke into 3 pieces and it makes it really hard to trace. I had this gasket made once before, as I'll show you, and as soon as I tried to punch the hole through, it blew out. So I had to do it again. That's okay. It turned out good and that'll work. This is brand new Caro Pack paper, so good stuff. And it saves us having to order it. Now, I did look into this and I was not happy to find out that in order to change this crank seal over here, that you have to split the case in half. So obviously clear back here is our case division. We'd have to pull the entire engine apart, and I'm not afraid of doing that. It's just the fact of ordering gaskets, the extra labor, all that. And right now, at least statically without this running, we don't have a leak here that I can hear. Now that might be changing when it gets hot and it's running, I don't know. But for now, I'm going to say neither side is leaking. So I've told the customer what's going on, and we're going to move forward with putting this back together. And then we're going to see if blocking off the oil supply from the oiler changes anything and running on premix. But aside from that, the only other thing I can think of is that it's sucking oil when it's getting hot. So I kind of doubt that it's leaking there after checking both of these. I even bumped the pressure up to about 10 psi. Had to be careful not to blow seals out, but I wanted to know for sure. And the other thing to mention too is, you know, the spark plug is pretty dirty, so let's clean that. I don't have the ability to get a second spark plug right now because our local power sports store only had one, so I might have to get one online, search around. But for now, we're just going to put this cover back on. This is just 6 little screws here and our gasket, so not a big deal. And like I say, heat cycling, that definitely did the trick with freeing those rings up. So hopefully we can figure this out without a lot of fooling around, and because we're right at the end of his budget and at the end of my patience and time here, to be honest. All right guys, well, we've got the transmission all filled up. This is your plug to see if you're full. So it's not a drain plug, it's just a check plug. My KM100 has a similar one. So you just get the bike level and you pour in the gear oil until it starts to drool out of there. And of course you can see it's 450 milliliters. So that's all done, and we're gonna hurry and button this up. All right, we got her all buttoned up. Gasket sealed up good. We're not leaking anything. And just in case you wondered, this is how you check the oil in here. So you just tip the bike level, undo this, and if oil drools out, then you've got enough in there. And of course, if you're doing a full fill, it's 450 milliliters. But honestly, I don't know why you'd need to know that, because it's going to come out the hole anyway. So that being said, all good with the gasket, no harm, no foul. That's all sealed up and not leaking, and we've got everything serviced and changed. So let's see if we can get that spark plug cleaned up now. Okay, spark plug's all cleaned up and brushed on the wire wheel. I just put this in the sandblaster and then cleaned this up lightly. Try not to etch that electrode, and then re-gapped it and rinsed it with brake clean. Okay, well, now we need to disconnect this oiler line without breaking it, and we may end up just having to replace this line altogether. The other thing I don't know if I mentioned before is I actually don't know what kind of oil is in here, so it could be anything really. Let's take this off here and just take a quick peek, see if we can tell what kind of goo is in here. Alright, so that's what we've got in there. Some sort of orange oil. I guess you can just pull this out of here, which is interesting. I guess that's easier than unbolting it, having to unbolt the seat and all that. Yeah, I don't know what kind of oil is in there, but let's just disconnect this. I'll have to do this off camera so that I can actually use both hands, but I'll pull this off here, and then we'll use our little bottle here to feed it some premix. I'm just going to take some premix out of the KDX 200, and we'll put it in here and see how she runs. And it's probably going to take a minute to clear out, so we got to get this warmed up. Just FYI. Alright guys, here's what I've removed from the exhaust. I don't know if this is a restrictor plate or what this is, but as soon as I took that out, she wanted to rev up. So obviously the restriction in the exhaust is not helping it run right. So let's try this again without that little restrictor plate in there. And we keep having this carburetor start peeing all over the floor. So that's nice. I don't know why it's doing that, but that's annoying. I'm about really finished with this bike. Really over. She's idling high, but listen to this. It's not running perfect. We may still have a seal leak, but that exhaust restrictor wasn't helping us at all. Guys, well, you heard it. It revs out cleanly now. It's smoking a little bit more than I'd like to see. So this premix that I'm running in here is out of my KDX 200. I think it's 42 to 1. So that really shouldn't be smoking quite that much. But what we're going to do is we're going to put that air cleaner back on and route our overflow tube. And we're going to let him decide what he wants to do from here on out. Maybe test ride it with his girls and see how it runs. So I'm going to call him, and this may be a wrap here. I'll let you know. Alright guys, well, we're going to hang on and not do any more work on this. He's fine with that little restrictor plate being out. Overall, it's not rideable with that restrictor plate in there, and that thing is like a 1/4 inch. And you can see how big this pipe is here. And you restrict that thing down to that much, it's no wonder it couldn't breathe. So we're going to go ahead and put all this stuff back together, and he's going to come get her. So we're going to call that a wrap. Thanks for watching, guys. This is Reaper, signing off on another one.